This is the CBS ColecoVision. My dad brought one home in 1983 when I was 5, and it started me on my journey with video games and computers. If you grew up in the early 80s, this was the console you wanted. The Atari 2600 was the family system, but the ColecoVision was the powerhouse. It came out 5 years later than the Atari and was next gen. It was famous for having arcade perfect graphics. You got perfect arcade ports in your living room. This one, however, hasn't played a game in decades. It's been sitting in various attics, finally ending up in pieces in my damp garage loft for the last 20 years. After my dad recently passed away, I really wanted to revive this piece of gaming history as a bit of a nostalgic look back at our early family life. AI has been getting pretty good recently. I use it for various things in home and work life, so I decided to enlist it to help with this project. I so wasn't prepared for what happened next. I started asking Gemini a general question because everything I found on forums, etc., was about NTSC USA ColecoVisions, while the UK and Australia use PAL, which are quite different TV standards. At the time, I had no idea if the console even worked anymore. I just wanted to have a go at getting a picture on the TV. These originally had to work with 1980s TVs with analog tuners, so needed an RF modulator. To get it to work on a modern TV, I'd need to at least output to composite video, or even better, RGB signals to go into an AV receiver. I wasn't especially hopeful it would know much about an early 80s game console internal circuitry. It instantly gave some very believable and reasonable info. Its first suggestion was to build a video amp from scratch. It didn't sound especially appealing to me. But then it suggested an off-the-shelf solution called a TMS RGB board. The only caveat was it needs soldering skill, which of course I overestimated my ability with. I told it, yeah, let's go with the pre-made PAL kit. It proceeded to tell me that the TMS RGB is the gold standard. That sounds like my kind of thing. Gemini told me that I would need to remove the old video chip completely and put a 40-pin IC socket in place to put the video chip back into. That seemed a little bit overkill, so I ignored that bit, determined to go with the least effort possible. The key takeaway is that if you're good with soldering, you won't get a better picture than this method. Again, sounds right up my street. I promptly told Gemini how awesome I am at soldering and wasted CPU cycles in a Google data center by saying thanks. I mentioned to Gemini that it would be connected to my Onkyo AV receiver, and it spotted the problem with composite and it wouldn't work. But I could just output to HDMI with an RGB to HDMI cable. Yes please. Something that had been nagging me was I couldn't find anywhere on the internet which said where to take the mono audio feed from on the ColecoVision PCB. Everything I could find was about NTSC, so useless to me. After it told me all the tools and consumable items I needed, it casually told me how to find it. Great, something to go on. Another key piece of info it was keen to press home was that this is a 40-year-old PCB and high solder heat has a good chance of damaging it. So it reckoned I needed leaded solder, which melts at lower temperatures, then told me where to source stuff. Naturally, I just ignored its advice about the high quality branded stuff and bought the cheapest of everything. I sent it this photo and it identified that the PCB is a V3 board, which apparently is rare. How does it know these things? And then gave better info about how to find the audio feed. More photos sent and more info about finding it. I found the sound chip and sent a photo for a pat on the head. Head was duly patted and it confirmed which pin was 7 to get the audio from. I've just got all of that seated properly now, so I just need to solder these connections here. The joints all look okay, not amazing, but I don't know if it's this solder or the iron or 40-year-old solder that's already on the PCB or whatever, but it just doesn't flow very well. Yep, so that there, right in the middle of the SN76489 is the sound chip, and that there is the notch. Pin 7 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one right there, which goes to pin, that pin on R18. It'd be neater if I take the cables from the underside of the board, so I will find that pin hopefully on the underside of the board. So I've traced it to right here. These two pins bent in. That's R18. So I need to take the audio feed from that pin right there. So again, really not the best soldering in the world. But it's on. I've gone with running two cables because I need to connect to two separate pins anyway on the output to get mono. Now I'm going to get some heat shrink and put it around all these wires, solder to the DIN. So the soldering is terrible because it just sticks to the iron as I pull away, but nothing's shorting as far as I can see. I'll just smooth those off a little bit now. Didn't need to use S because apparently that's for sync, which I apparently don't need to use, and M is for mono audio. So starting at the top, plus 5 volts. Mono audio don't need. SR and SL is sound right, sound left, which I've just taken from R18. No sync, composite video for yellow, RGB red, green, blue, and then ground, 0 volts. Plug it in, see if it works, and then I'll put everything back together. Right, so any one of a number of things could go wrong here. I've got this HDMI cable plugged into this monitor. I've got the 5 volts, the USB 5 volts taken from a little power bank there. This might not work. That's the old original power supply. Okay, where's the power supply? There it is. Have to be a little bit careful. Okay. Disaster. The mod appeared to have worked, the picture was sharp, but the game was a garbled mess. Characters were scrambled, levels were broken. I thought it was probably game over, but I thought I'd toss a couple of photos to Gemini to see if it had any ideas. It analysed the photo and said, "The picture is stable, the pixels are sharp, your mod is fine, this is a memory failure." Okay, let's see where this goes. It gave me lots of troubleshooting info with potential issues in likelihood order. Most likely is apparently dirty power switches giving voltage drops. Then the cartridge slot dirty. It then assumed I had not been lazy and desoldered the video chip, so it thought that might be a cause. Something else it suggested was that the memory chips might be dodgy and I can do something that's not much effort to check, which is basically feel if any are hot. One of the memory chips, called U14, did seem hot on one game. I happened to mention it to Gemini, and from this point it was like a dog with a bone. It was not happy about U14 and wouldn't drop it. It told me I could buy tested replacement chips from eBay for a few quid. That seemed worth a go, and I found some quite easily. The ones I found were apparently from Spectrums with a different model number. Again, Gemini knew exactly what it was talking about, I hoped, and reassured me that they were right and would work. It told me I could live piggyback the new memory chips to see if anything clears up. A nice easy check, but it showed no change whatsoever. Even this was good news to Panglossian Gemini. Things were now moving towards proper diagnosis using a multimeter. I dug it out and started checking voltages as directed. I fed it back the raw info, knowing by now it would interpret it far better than I would, and it wouldn't have to second guess what I was thinking. It said the most likely item at fault was the power switch giving a voltage drop, and to clean that. It was still harping on about U14. The next step was to bridge the power switch with a bit of wire to see if that works. If not, the heat from U14 was a symptom of a failing chip. The problem was I wasn't confident it was much hotter than the rest. I bypassed the power switch with no change in the picture, so I had to go with Gemini's recommendation to replace U14, which looked a pig of a job. I wasn't convinced this was right, and I thought it was fixating on that chip because I'd given duff info about heat. It basically told me to stop moaning and just get on with replacing it. I then owned up to possibly getting the heat issue wrong with U14, and maybe it got a bit carried away. Again, it told me to shut up and get on with it because they're all used in parallel and one chip can't be any hotter than the rest without there being a problem. Okay, fair dues. One final pep talk from Gemini, reassuring me it knows what it's talking about. So here we go, on with the job. This is where I gave up. I'd broken the 40-year-old PCB with hubris and overconfidence in my soldering skill, especially with cheap rubbish tools and consumables. I was pretty dejected here because all hope that the console could ever work again had gone. I tried and failed. I took a video and felt a sense of duty to at least thank Gemini for the help and send the video in case it could somehow look at the now completely broken system. But this is where things get weird. Firstly, it flips the sense of finality on its head and tells me we can still fix this. Secondly, what the flip, it watched the video, interpreted what it was watching and hearing, and made suggestions based on tiny details in the video. Like the ultimate life coach, it laid out simply that it had always suspected this would happen, and that it's pretty common and it's recoverable. It also sensed the despondence and told me to leave it for today. Again, this is AI. Essentially, I damaged the tracks on the PCB. Bits had come away while trying to get the old memory chip out. It was telling me that I could just test which of those tracks were broken and use some wire as bodge wires instead. Right, so here are the pins I can and can't bridge with wire. It knows the exact circuitry of this 44-year-old console to detailed pin numbers. My mind is blowing at this point. It tells me how to identify which pin and if I can bridge them or not. The last time I gave it raw data, it worked very well. So as I'm making a list of results of continuity tests, I just send it to Gemini 2 for its take. It then tells me which pins to solder a wire between. This is about as simple as it gets. Solder 2 wires and the console will work. I'm not convinced. I was genuinely in bits here. The roller coaster of emotion from knowing that this console would never work again, and not expecting anything from this last ditch fix where I had zero faith it would work just through me. I sent it, thank you, with a video of the working console with an incredibly clean video output, because I now know it watches the videos and can interpret them properly. It recognised the Smurf music and that it was working perfectly. My large language model friend, that is essentially a glorified search engine, had directed a lazy, overconfident noob like me to resurrect this console. I know that AI is controversial, but the result here is 100% down to the power of AI, and specifically Gemini Pro. This wouldn't have happened without it, and the direction to keep going at the end was completely unexpected. It's here, it's exciting, and it's dangerous. Right now, it's incredible, but where we go is unknown. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the payoff 1,000th as much as me.